Hello there, welcome to Skeleton Keys Productions. I'm Crime Grace Cocon. Let's get into the video. So now this is going to be part 2 of a previous video talking about Trump versus Biden US election for 2020. Yeah, that video took off relatively well compared to some other videos at this point. And so not just because I want some cheap views, but also want to, there's been more developments since then. So at the time when we filmed that was a few days before the election, and we were warning about some of the problems with polarization in America and in the West in general. Since then, things have got more tense. The end electoral college vote will be 306 for Biden to 232 for Trump, which is quite interesting because actually the polar opposite of what Trump got in 2016. So, as you can imagine, the president has not taken it too well, and he's taken it to the Supreme Court because, like, to have a recount of the vote. Yeah, this could get very, very dicey. This election was always going to be a thing where whoever won it, people were going to complain about it, and the vote was going to be delegitimized. So in this video, we're going to look at some of the wider issues within the American system and possibly offering some possible solutions. I know I'm not American. I have studied a lot of like the American Constitution. I have a big, big support of America and its founding principles and stuff. But at the same time, there are elements to which it might need some level of reform. While the founding fathers obviously put it down and they made very strong arguments for things, in some regards, some things might need to be like amended to it. There's some things that have over the last 100 years or so been enacted, which there's no constitutional basis for. So some of the power of the presidency in the first place is something which the founding fathers never really would have thought of. Like the president and the government, for that matter, was never supposed to have as much power as it has. So within this video, we're going to cover some of what's happening today, but then also looking back at some of the wider history of it. Now, I know a lot of people are saying that it's unprecedented for the president to want a recount, but it's not the first time it's ever happened. So in the election of 2000, which was a very contentious election, in that election it all came down to the state of Florida. Al Gore went to the Supreme Court and said, we want a recount in 3 counties to have a recount of the votes. So that means all the votes collected in that district have to be recounted from the beginning, right? Now the Supreme Court, they kicked this decision down to the state court, and basically it was like, we're not kind of intervening in this. Like this is kind of, there doesn't seem to be anything necessarily wrong with it. It's completely up to you guys. Anyway, the appeal basically kind of got kicked into the long grass, and so of course, George Bush Jr. Became president. In upcoming videos, so I'm planning to do like kind of alternative history things. I'm a real nerd for that kind of stuff. So at some point, we're going to do a future video on what would happen if George Bush had lost that election. But anyway, within the context of this election, if it goes to the Supreme Court, at the moment, the Supreme Court is skewered. So there's 9 justices on the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is the highest, it's the highest legal body in America, right? And at the moment, so normally it's a 5-4 split, yeah. So the Supreme Court justices, yeah, they serve for life or or until they retire, right? And so once they're picked, that's it, right? So they're nominated by the president and have to be approved by the Senate, and then they go in, right? So for the most part, because you end up having this transfer of Democrat president, Republican president, etc., yeah, there tends to always be a rough balance. Yeah, the court tends to be, because when they pick these justices, yeah, they tend to be either liberally leaning or conservative leaning, right? And so most times it's like a 5-4 split, right? So it's either five conservatives on the court and 4 liberals, or vice versa, right? Because of the weird thing in terms of the number of justices who happen to have died in the last few years, yeah, like who were getting old and stuff, yeah, it's meant that actually the court is now going more and more conservative, because there happens to have been Donald Trump happened to have been president, and so now the court is 6-3. Could at some point, who knows, go 7-2 if Trump ends up being re-elected again. It's very unlikely at this point, but at the time of recording this on Saturday, it could still happen, right? So that means that if it goes to the Supreme Court, it depends very much on whether they want to vote along partisan lines. Now, if the justices decide to vote along partisan lines, then it becomes a little bit dicey, because if they decide, all 6 Conservatives decide, no, Donald Trump is the president, then that means that, well, at the moment of recording, he's the one who's lost this election. But, you know, they could essentially hand him the presidency. And then if it was even the other way, if they decided that they wanted to rule for Joe Biden, it's a contentious issue. But the question is, where does the Supreme Court get the power to do this sort of thing? So what's interesting is that the Supreme Court actually got its power from a case that was very similar to what we are going through now. It happened as a result of a contentious election, which was the election of 1800. This is one of the very dicey moments kind of in US history. In terms of the Electoral College, which we'll get onto in a moment, it actually got a tie vote. This has only happened once in 1800 and in 1824, and there was talk of it happening for this election, and it could have happened up to a certain point, but now it seems that that's pretty much unlikely to happen. If that does happen, then it ends up going to the House of Representatives, and they all vote on it, and the Senate, they then pick the vice president. As it stands, the House is democratically leaning and the Senate is republically leaning, but each state gets one vote. And seen as at the moment there seem to be more Republican states than Democratic states, or it's a bit dicey as to who would be president, and also the fact that the president and the vice president could be from different parties. But aside from that, the Supreme Court got its power in the case Marbury versus Madison in 1803. And in that case this is where the precedent for the Supreme Court having the power to strike down laws unconstitutional, So it's from that decision that they get this power from. So it's nowhere in the constitutions that say that the Supreme Court has the power to strike things down as constitutional or unconstitutional, but the Supreme Court took that power upon itself, and as a result, over 200 years of history, the Supreme Court has intervened time and time again. Now, the Founding Fathers never had this vision for the Supreme Court to have this much power, especially if you think about it. It's 9 unelected people, and all it takes is 5 of them to decide to vote on something, and then it ends up, that's the law of the land. Doesn't matter what the Congress does, doesn't matter what the different states vote on. It's a thing of, this is the law. And the only way to actually change that is to have a different court at a later date, like when there's a different case before it, for them to either decide to change it, or for you to go through the whole process of a constitution amendment, which again we'll get into a bit later. So what basically the Supreme Court, rather than enforcing the law as such, kind of end up in some regards creating new laws. So we saw this the whole heap of very contentious Supreme Court decisions. For instance, you had Citizens United, which said that money equals free speech. So that allowed people to give whatever donations they wanted. So candidates could get billions and billions or millions and millions, but feasibly they could have an unlimited amount. They could have billions of just for their campaign. On the other hand, you also have cases like Roe v. Wade, where it was decided that abortion would be legalized across all the different states, regardless of what the different states legislated for. For all these cases, you could say, oh, well, I support this or support that, but the point being that no one voted for it, except for these 9 justices who are not subject to any kind of democratic accountability, and so their decision is final, and they have no checks and balances in that regard once they've made the decision. So if it goes to the Supreme Court, we could end up having the presidency picked by 9 justices, 6 of which are likely to lean towards Donald Trump anyway, 3 of whom were actually appointed by this president himself. So, it's unlikely that if someone gives you this job for life, that all of a sudden you're going to vote to take them out of office, right? So the decision could end up coming down to these very small group of people. So we have to ask ourselves, is in the 21st century, is this necessarily the way that America should be governed moving forward? I'm not saying it should be one way or the other, but I'm just asking the question, and many people in the country are asking these kind of questions as to, is this the way that, just because it's always been this way, is there anything that we can do to tweak this? Is there anything that we need to radically change? Do we need to keep this exactly the same? Is this a system that works, or is it not a system that works? And I think, we'll get into this in a bit in terms of where public opinion really stands on these kind of issues. Now, many people from outside of America, and even many people, unfortunately, inside America, will be very confused with this talk about electoral college, People really need to get their head around the fact that just because majority of people in America voted for a person does not mean that they automatically become president. And just so that people don't get on a high horse about this, this is the case across most countries in the world. In Britain, for instance, in the 1951 election, Winston Churchill re-won his role as being Prime Minister and beat Clem Attlee, who was running for the Labour Party, but the Labour Party actually had more votes than the Conservative Party in that election, and it's happened multiple times around around the world and stuff, right? In Australia, in I believe Germany, in Italy, in many places. So people around the world need to get off their high horse in terms of thinking that your head of state is picked by whoever got the most votes. That is not the case it's not really the case at all. So if that's the case, how are people chosen, right? So in Britain, our Prime Minister is the leader of the biggest party in the country. So whichever party has won the most amount of seats, that ends up being, the leader of that ends up being the Prime Minister. So that's very different from how it is in America, right? Just because the House of Representatives, for instance, which is kind of the equivalent of our House of Commons, just because that might vote a certain way does not mean automatically that the president will be from that party. So for instance, in America, you might have a Republican president, you might have a Democratic House of Representatives and a Republican Senate. So this is what it has been before this election. Founding Fathers of America set up in this way. They wanted government to be divided because for them, they were really scared of government tyranny. And so they didn't want what you have in the British system whereby, you win an election and then you've just got absolute majority and you can just, the Prime Minister and the party can just put through whatever policies they want, right? That's why America has these checks and balances, This is why you have the presidency, you have the legislature, which is like the House of Congress, and you have the Supreme Court, and all of these competing interests make it so that it's very difficult for a radical to come in and completely change the system. The question is this, on what day is the president actually picked? Now, some people will say, oh, it's the first Tuesday in November, right? So for this year, it was November 3rd. That's actually not the right answer. So that's when the nationwide election is for the presidency, but that's not actually when the president is picked. The president is picked actually on the second Wednesday of December. How can you have an election? How can you have a nationwide election in November, but the president's actually picked in December? This is where the Electoral College comes in. The Founding Fathers really did not like the idea of democracy, right? These were very learned people, and they looked into the history of ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and many other places, right? And they came to the conclusion that democracy was not good. It was really bad. It was really bad. So, and the reason for this is because they were all landowners, they had business interests, etc. And for them, they were worried that if you had democracy, eventually, if you have the so-called opulent minority versus the majority, right? If you've got 1% of people who have a lot of money, the other 99% of people can vote to take that money away, right? So if you're protecting people's property, if you're protecting people's wealth, you don't want a democratic system, right? You want to have some checks and balances on the power of the people as well. So that's why America is a republic. It's founded as a republic. You will find nowhere in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence the word democracy. And the only time any one of the founding documents that you will find the word democracy is in the Federalist Papers, which is a paper, a set of papers where some of the different founding fathers came together and argued explicitly that America should not be a democracy for that exact reason, to protect the private property of of wealthy people. So in theory, there's actually nothing to stop these electors, these 538 people who come from different states, they're chosen by the different state legislatures, right? And there's nothing to stop these 538 people. Say, for instance, in 2016, Hillary lost that election. If all 538 of these people decided, hey, we want Hillary Clinton to be president, they could do it. If they decided that they wanted Bernie Sanders, who wasn't even running the thing, to be president, they could do it. If they wanted, well, they can't make me president because A, I'm not old enough, and B, I wasn't born in America. But anyway, if they decide to pick anyone who's eligible to be president to become the president, that could happen, right? If they want Kanye West to be president, they can vote for that to happen. So on December the 9th, if the people who make up the electoral college, vote for Kanye West to be president, guess what? Kanye West is the president, and there would be nothing unconstitutional about that. Even though, for instance, he only got a handful of votes, relatively speaking, there's still nothing to say unconstitutionally that he couldn't be president. I know, mind blown, right? Is it precedent for this to happen? Is there, do people, are they likely to do that? Well, while there wouldn't be a constitutional crisis, we can definitely imagine there'd be a democratic crisis if this was to happen. And actually, we did see inklings of this in the 2016 election, right? So in the 2016 election, there were 8 so-called faithless electors, right? So these are people who, from different states, decided, actually, no, even though my state has voted this way, we are not voting that way. So we had a vote for Bernie Sanders, we had a vote for Ron Paul, who wasn't even running in any of these kind of things. He hadn't run since 2012. John Kasich, who was defeated in the Republican primaries. And then also Faith Spotted Eagle, who's a Native American, American Indian activist, who was a really big advocate against the Keystone pipeline and stuff that went through the Indian reservation there, and so these people, they said, oh yeah, we want that person was we want this guy to be president, we want this guy to be president, and there was actually nothing to stop them from being able to do that. And this time as well, on December the 9th, when the Electoral College actually comes together and votes for who they want to be president, if Joe Biden ends up winning it, but they decide that actually we want Donald Trump to be the president, there's nothing to stop this from happening. And so you might say that this is quite an insane system, but there's also arguments for it, right? So to play devil's advocate for it, if you had a situation where Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany, his party, the Nazi Party, was the largest party. There was nothing really stopping him from becoming dictator, right? Because of the constitution of Weimar Germany. However, if someone like Hitler came to power in America, say Hitler, or the equivalent of him, became the president of America, well, he'd have both houses of Congress, which might be against him. He has the Supreme Court, which might be against him. He has all the different states, which might be against him. And beside that, if, for instance, these people in the Electoral College went, whoa, hold on, that's crazy, the people want Hitler. No, we don't want Hitler. Yeah, we're voting against it. We're voting for anyone else except for him, right? Under that system, they would be able to stop someone like Hitler, an actual tyrant, from rising to power. And that's the whole reason why the American Constitution was set up as it was, because the big thing that the founding fathers were scared of was tyranny. And so how do you make it so that it's impossible for someone to become a tyrant? So as much as people are saying that, Trump is basically Hitler, or this or that, is he's acting like a dictator, even when he was elected the first time, and he got and he had majority of the House and of the Senate and the presidency and stuff, and he still wasn't able to do whatever he wanted. He still couldn't build a wall. He still couldn't do this. He still couldn't do that, etc., right? So doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter like kind of if you're the president, there's certain things that you simply cannot do. And because of that, people both in America and in the rest of the world are really, really focused too much on the presidency and really kind of, we'll get into this in a bit in terms of actually how powerful is the president really. However, as you can imagine, quite a lot of Americans are opposed to this system for the very simple fact that like most of them don't think it's very likely that someone like Hitler is going to rise to power, and therefore it's a bit of an overreaction, a bit of over precaution, and there's other checks and balances. So why do we have to go through this process every year of having this electoral college, which doesn't really make sense, and is it, it's complicated and it's all blah blah blah. Okay, most Americans, since Poland began on this in 1967, have consistently said that actually we want to get rid of the electoral college. It doesn't really make sense, right? And up until 2016, this this was very non-partisan. People from both parties were like, yeah, this system makes sense. Like it's long, but there's never enough of a strong movement to actually get it repealed, because to change the US Constitution, you need 2/3 of both the House and the Senate and 3/4 of the states, right? And throughout the whole history of America, 244 years, right? Yeah, I did my maths right. 244 years, you've only had, no, sorry, I can't do maths. What's going on right now? Yeah, 244, there we go. My A and GCSE really came in handy there. So after 244 years, right, America has only had 27 amendments, right? That shows you how difficult it is to actually put amendments in the Constitution. Yeah, and the last one that we had was in 1992, right? So within my lifetime, there has never been another amendment put to the Constitution. So trying to overturn the Electoral College would take a monumental kind of like level of support in the nation, and clearly at the moment there isn't that. So in 2011, look at some of the stats here, right? 2011, you had 69% of Democrats and you had 54% of Republicans nationwide who supported this, right? However, 2016 happened, and obviously the Electoral College favoured the Republicans, and actually in 2000 it favoured the Republicans, and in 1888 it also favoured the Republicans. So in all three of those elections, the majority of people voted Democrat, and yet, the Republican candidate ended up winning. So Republicans kind of put two and two together and was like, actually, this system seems to benefit us, right? So yeah, about changing that. So now, 2016, well, since 2016, it's now 81% of Democrats, because they're thinking, hey, we can actually win some elections now. And the Republicans, 19%. So now it's become a partisan issue. And even in 2018, 75% of Democrats and just 32% of Republicans support it, right? So nationwide, there is still a majority for it, right? There's 54% to 41% who oppose it. So it could still be done. At the same time, good luck trying to get a divided Congress, which is pretty much split 50-50, to try and have 2/3 decision, for this. And then never mind the different states, what you're going to have 38 out of the 50 states voting on this, when about like 25 of those states were in any given election are going to vote for Republicans. Good luck with that. The Electoral College gives more it skewers the power of the states more towards the smaller states, and this is part of why the Constitution was set up in the way it was. The founding fathers, they wanted to have a balance between, some people wanted there to be more representation, so the bigger states wanted more representation, but the smaller states wanted more power, they wanted the states to be represented more, right? So it's a balancing act again between the more populous states and the least populous states. States that have very small populations, the Electoral College favours them, and most of those states are rural and they vote Republican. So again, you're not going, there's an inbuilt reason as to why it's going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, for this to ever be changed. However, does it necessarily need to go to the constitution? Do we need to have a constitutional amendment to do that? All that seems a little bit long and a bit excessive, right? We've got 54% of people who want something, yeah, and only 41% of people who oppose it. Surely we should be able to change it about, right? But no, actually, it's so. It could be done on a state-by-state basis, and actually, some 2 states in the union already do this. Yeah, so in Maine and Nebraska, they have, you know, if a district, yeah, votes a certain way, that ends up being counted for that party, right? So in Maine, if one of the districts end up voting for the Democrats and the other one votes for Republicans, that gets counted as 1 vote for the Democrats, 1 vote for the Republicans, right? And you know, it kind of goes on that way for Nebraska as well. So actually nothing to stop the rest of the states from doing that. However, the problem is the kind of classic argument about unilateral disarmament, right? So say for instance California, which leans heavily towards the Democrats, if they decide that like instead of giving their 55 electors, yeah, to the Democrats, is that if they want to have this kind of more proportional kind of like thing where actually if one district went Republican, then it goes this way, etc., right? That's fine, but at the same time, if that's not reciprocated in Republican-leaning states like Texas, then you basically just like handed some extra points to the opposition, and they're not given any in return. So it would require a great deal of trust across all 50 states, right? And actually, if one state decided, actually, we're not doing that, there's actually nothing constitutional to actually enforce that, right? So even if you were to pass a law in Congress, which said that actually this is like this, the different states have to do this, yeah, I'm not sure whether that could be passed. I'm not sure whether that would just get thrown out by Supreme Court offhand. But regardless of whether they allowed it to be passed or not, if at any point this were to happen in a future election, the federal government can't turn around to the states and say you have to do this. Yeah, it would be ruled out as unconstitutional. So actually, the only way to make sure that it's actually set in stone and can't be changed is to do it constitutionally. But probably the quicker way, if one wanted to change it, would be to go through this route. It could be done. It could be done. At the same time, there's arguments again for the electoral college, because again, it's this balancing between the smaller states, because otherwise, if you just have a popular vote, the candidates are just going to flock to the major cities. Yeah, they're going to flock to LA, New York, like Chicago, etc. And the vast majority of the country is just going to be completely left, right? All the rural places, all the kind of suburban places, all these places where not so many people necessarily live, are just going to be forgotten, right? And so everything's going to be very urban focused, right? So do we necessarily, like, America's a vast country if you think about it. If you think of the difference between like Hawaii and Alaska and Maine and California, or Florida and Texas, you know, or West Virginia versus Oregon, like the needs of all these places are so disparate, right? It requires a system which doesn't just mean that everyone gravitates to the major cities, because if everyone just did that, then the huge swathes of the country, which already feel underrepresented, which already feel abandoned by people, which already feel kind of left behind, quote unquote, these places are going to feel even more so if you end up having a popular vote kind of thing. So are there compromises to this? I think we can come up with some. But before we do that, you know, just a quick reminder to like, comment and subscribe, and obviously watch some more of the videos. Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of these playlists. Yeah, check out some of the playlists. Yeah, like honestly, I'm not just like tooting my own horn. There's some really good stuff on this channel. You will learn a lot. I've learned a lot through making this, and you know, the channel's we're not going anywhere. We've got a whole lot more videos planned out. We're going to cover a whole range of different topics. We still haven't actually finished the political theories series yet. We still, you know, waiting in the wings is like environmentalism. Waiting in the wings is you know, plenty of other like different things to look into. We're gonna, as I mentioned, we're gonna do alternative history videos. Already have the script written out for them. We're gonna do videos on IQ. We're gonna do videos looking at different films. We're gonna do book reviews. Like even the Federalist Papers that I mentioned. Yeah, we're gonna at some point do a book review on that and many other books as well. So definitely stay tuned for this year. This channel is not going anywhere. This was not a one-hit wonder. At this point we've done over 30 videos. Plan to have many more. I've already got the scripts and plans for a lot more. So definitely, if you want to help out the channel, subscribe and share this to your friends as well. Yeah, let them know about Skeleton Keys Productions. Yeah, because yeah, we're not going anywhere. Actually, before we get into all that, we have to ask the question: why is the voting taking so long in America? At the time of writing this year, it's Saturday and the election took place on Tuesday. Why are you taking so long to count your votes, America? And why is there so many different voting systems in different states? Why do you have to do a signature in someone's and you've got to do a punch hole in another and you've got to do that? And, why? In Britain, we just have paper and you walk in there, paper, here's a pencil, don't steal the pencil. Put an X, there you go, put it in the box, end of. Take the box at the end of the night, put it take it to the local town hall, whatever, count the votes up. Yes, by hand, and people are racing to do it, and got different constituencies that always try and get the fastest one out there. And so after a few hours, you find out who's won and who's lost, and then you can go to bed, right? You're not there for 3-4 days. Who knows how long it's going to take? And never mind if there's a recount, etc. Just do it properly the first time. Do it quickly, do it efficiently. The whole world is watching. This is not to disrespect other countries and stuff, yeah, right? But this is not Papua New Guinea and stuff, yeah. Big love for Papua New Guinea, but people are not sitting around on the world being who's won that election. Yeah, people want to know who's going to be the president of America, right? Because America is the most powerful, most influential country in the world, and we would like to know, as much as you guys would like to know, who is your next president. Can you just do this a little bit quicker next time? I know it's a big country, but you've got the different districts. It's not like all the votes are being compiled and sent to Washington, D.C. and the senators and congressmen themselves are flicking through. You've got tons of people, and don't give me this stuff about volunteers and etc. If that's the case, pay people. Yeah, if they're taking this long, some of the memes, yeah, hopefully I've got some of them, hopefully I'll remember to put some of the memes up here. They've been hilarious about people in Nevada taking ages to count this. Why? Why is it at the time of me writing this, yeah, it's 50% of the votes counted in Alaska? Why is it just hurry up and count? How long does it take to actually be 1, 2, 1, 2? Honestly, I would take time. I took time out the last election to fly over there. Yeah, I should have, in hindsight, taken time off work. I should have flown out there and help you guys count it yourself, because clearly something's going wrong. I don't know. I don't want to disrespect people and stuff, but you're doing what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing, but just do it a bit quicker, because the world is actually waiting. Time is money, people. Come on. Sorry about that rant. Sorry about that rant. Yeah. So. Well, now that rant's out the way and stuff, yeah, I'm gonna get loads of people in America oh no, whatever. So maybe this system could potentially work. Yeah, the system I'm about to suggest. So in the UK, as I said, we have the person who has the most MPs, yeah, in the House I'm getting all confused now. In the House of Commons, yeah, the person who is the leader of the party that has the most seats in the House of Commons is now the Prime Minister, right? Now, is there potential for the President to also have that? Well, I don't know, there's problems with that system, because, in America, they have congressional elections every 2 years, right? So the Senate, which, if you're a senator, you serve 6-year terms, and they have it on a rotational basis. So a third of the senators go up for election in this 2-year slot, and the next third in this one, and the next third in this one, yeah, right? And the House of Representatives, every 2 years, you'll have the fresh elections. So, feasibly, if you had the president being that, following that kind of pattern, it'd be you could have a new president every 2 years. And I think it's a bit difficult having a long set of policy goals and like wanting to do stuff, yeah, if you're having elections happening at such a fast rate. That system within the American system wouldn't necessarily work. Also as well, we have the Queen, who actually is the one who appoints the Prime Minister. That's a different story. So yeah, like kind of what possible solutions do we have for this? Because the popular vote in and of itself isn't the best, and having like the electoral college isn't necessarily the best. Is it a thing where we do need to move towards having a system whereby the electors of each state, it's mandated that they have to vote for how the different districts voted? Because that would give a far more balanced thing, yeah, right? Rather than it being a winner takes all kind of situation in each state, why can't you have what you have in Maine and Nebraska? Because then if the vote is narrow, it would be narrow, and but it'd be a lot more proportional than what we have now, and so proportional as to disadvantage like the least powerful states. So it still would preserve the power of the smaller states and representation of the smaller states, while also throwing a bone to the vast swathes of people in all the states who are completely abandoned, right? If you don't happen to live in a swing state, no one cares about how you vote. If you're in California, whether you're Democrat or Republican, no one cares, because we know that's going to go to the Democrat. No one's going to waste time campaigning there. No one's going to listen to your interests. Doesn't matter how you vote, because at the end of the day, California is always going to go Democrat, right? Or at least that's the conventional thinking. And the same thing with Republicans. Up until recently, it was a thing where, yeah, Texas, yeah, it's fine. It's going to always go that way. So that's not very representative, and this is a big problem we have with representation across like kind of the world, because how do you actually represent what people want? Like I said at the beginning, like kind of America probably expects far too much from its president, and so does the rest of the world. Like, the president was never meant to have this much power. In the Constitution, the president is limited to a very select like range of things, right? Mostly to do with foreign policy and representing the nation on a world stage, right? And so in that regard, he's head of state, but then also at time of war, he's the commander in chief. He's the head of the armed forces, right? Well, he or she. The idea of the president being almost like this king or this emperor and stuff, yeah, it is up until the progressive era of about the turn of the last century, yeah. So you're talking like the 1900s. You never really had presidents having such a massive role and coming in on platforms saying we're going to do this and we're going to do that and etc., right? It's all a bit like this was not how things were intended to be. And so when the president kind of comes on the thing and says, right, I'm gonna, like at election time they say, right, I'm gonna lower your taxes, I'm gonna raise your taxes, and we're gonna spend this much, and we're gonna like kind of cut the spending by this much, or blah 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 blah, etc., right? Actually, that power is not with the president. The president has the power to veto policies, right? But all tax and spending policies have to arise from the houses of Congress, okay? And same thing with foreign policy. The president can go, I want to make this trade deal, I want to do this, etc., etc. At the end of the day, it has to, I want to have this new treaty with this foreign country. It has to be approved by the Senate. So the power of the presidency is limited, right? We shouldn't think that the president's going to come in and, oh my God, the world's going to end if Donald Trump like kind of gets in, he's going to do X, Y, Z. If Joe Biden gets in, it's going to be X, Y, Z. Because actually the president doesn't have as much power as we think he does. And to the extent that they think they have the power and people think they have that power, it's not how things were intended to be. So what can we do to kind of like get back to the system, like kind of, because or do we wish to come back to the system? I would say that the path that it's kind of going down has many parallels to the Roman Republic, right? So for those who are like students of like ancient like history and stuff, they will understand that the Roman Republic went through a phase where because they had set up their constitution much in the same way as America did, yeah, with like a Senate and with like kind of the what's it called, council, whatever, I can't remember what it's called now, but it was for the plebeians, yeah, like, so there was some democratic thing, but then there was also the Senate that was there, and you had like I believe the consul, who was basically like the equivalent of the president day, and so you had these checks and balances, but over time you had populism grow. You had, you know, more and more of the people was like, well, we expect like the government to do this and we expect them to do that, etc., etc. And so the power of the government ended up becoming greater and greater. And so those, for instance, who never like read William Shakespeare's like kind of play Julius Caesar, they can see this. They can see that actually Caesar is very popular with the people, but he's becoming more and more like a tyrant. And then on the flip side, you have the senators, yeah, who are jealous of Caesar, but also there's some like Brutus who fear that like Caesar's becoming like a king, he's becoming like a tyrant, right? And this is where the murder of Julius Caesar like comes into it. And what ended up happening then is a civil war, and Rome had gone through a series of civil wars up to this point, and then out of the chaos of that rises an emperor, and this is when the Roman Republic dies, and the empire that kind of rises, right? So is America heading for this road? Well, I think that, you know, there's certain rules to games that we have to play by, right? Like, so if I'm playing chess with you and then you rugby tackle me, or you like start punching me as if we're in a boxing match, yeah, we're not playing the same game at this point, right? And both sides, when you're playing a game, have to agree to the rules of the game. And when one side is saying that this vote is illegitimate, and I'm not being partisan here, right? There's people, because if it had gone the other way, if Joe Biden had lost, yeah, he would have, his side would have questioned that kind of the legitimacy of the election, as happened in 2016. People, like, you know, for 4 years have said that Donald Trump is not the legitimate president, is not my president, etc., etc. So now Trump supporters are also going to be saying Joe Biden is not my president. Yeah, it's a illegitimate election, it's a stolen election in both cases, right? The problem is that both in America and in Britain and many other places, right, we have phenomenons where people go, it was a rigged election, it was stolen, like kind of we need to recount, we need a second like referendum, we need a second vote, etc., etc. And like, the problem with that is the way democracy works is that whichever side wins or loses, you go, oh, like if your side loses, you go, oh well, better luck next time. We'll run a better campaign, or like kind of we'll make better arguments, or whatever. Maybe the electorate will have changed a bit then, and you know, like there has to be a kind of agreed set of like principle in terms of the next time we're going to have this vote is going to be in this many years, or if it's going to be a once in a generation thing, it needs to be once in a generation. It has to, you know, there has to be some sort of rules to the game which we all agree to, so we don't just constantly, because what is happening now is a very worrying thing. We're having like these democratic elections, yeah, and we're having them be, the role of government is so huge now, like whether it should or shouldn't be, it is, right? And the fact is that people have so much invested in who becomes the president, who becomes the prime minister, who becomes whatever, right? That now it becomes a thing of, if one side cannot accept that they've lost, yeah, and if the other side is too triumphalist, yeah, in their victory, it means that actually the very fabric that holds the glue that holds our democracies together is starting to come apart, right? And it means that actually, regardless of who wins an election, it's never going to be respected. If we can't continue down this road, don't think that 2024 is going to be somehow respected. Don't think that 2028, don't think that 2032 is going to be respected, right? Don't think that things are going to just be like, well, that was that then. Because you've now set a precedent, yeah, whereby no matter who wins, people will now question it, people have suspicion, people like won't trust the other side. And this is where it becomes more and more going down the road of civil war. And as I've said before in the previous video, if we go down the road of civil war, then like tyranny rises from the ashes of like a collapse, right? So people will take advantage of a collapse in anything. Yeah, it's what's referred to as the Iron Law of Oligarchy, right? There's always going to be someone at the top, and if there's a chaotic period where the old order like collapses, people from outside of that will rise up, right? And it's going to be very, if it goes down that road, it's going to be very, very dangerous, right? And then you can forget any kind of like fair and free and democratic elections from that point on. You can forget about the constitution because people are not going to respect it. If people don't respect it as it stands, then this what happened with Rome. People stopped respecting the constitution. People stopped caring about checks and balances. People stopped caring about the process. They stopped caring about the rules of the game, right? People were playing chess, and then people decided, oh, we're going to just rugby tackle them, right? This is not good, right? If you're boxing, then you need to do boxing. If you're doing chess, you need to do chess, right? You need to agree to the rules of the game which you're playing. So the founding fathers, when I said that they were skeptical of democracy, right? I'll finish the video with, why's my light gone off? Oh no, what's going on? Ah, well, I'll sort that in a second. Why has that gone like that? Sorry about that, the light just died. So as you can see, I've got a new studio and stuff, as such. Got a green screen, got lights and stuff. Yeah, it's all very cool, but still getting to grips with it. Probably is a problem with the lighting. I've noticed that on the back, the sun is going from there to there, so there might be some problems with that in the editing. If there is, apologies, right? But anyway, as I was saying, I'm going to now get into a quote from James Madison, who's one of the founding fathers who wrote the Federalist Papers, and this was something that he said about democracies. There is nothing to check the inducements to sacrifice the weaker party or an obnoxious individual. Hence it is that such democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security over the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. Now, if you understand why the founding fathers were very skeptical about having a democratic America, right? They were very worried, even the Senate, for instance, up until 1913, senators were appointed by the states. They were not directly elected by the people. So America tried to, the founding fathers tried as much as possible to kind of stop there from being governments with too much power, stop there from being this kind of excess of democracy where there's, as they refer to it, the tyranny of the majority, right? Because yes, you want to have representation and stuff. Yes, you want there to be people power. You want democracy. But at the same time, there also has to be this system of checks and balances, because if there's not, if the government is not kept in check, if a different branch is not kept in check, if even to an extent the people themselves are not kept in check, because we're not perfect, we're not people in their daily lives, make mistakes, right? And millions of people can make mistakes as such, in the grand scheme of things. And obviously that's completely subjective, what's a mistake and what's not a mistake. But at the end of the day, humans in a complex society need checks and balances. Otherwise, if one side has too much power, then it means that the other side is going to be very hostile towards that. And when the stakes end up being this high, and when the tension is this high, and when the level of distrust is this high, be careful, because everything that America is not perfect. Western, a liberal democracy, is not perfect, but it is, as Churchill said, it is the worst form of government except all others that have been tried from time to time. And if you want to continue to have the freedoms and have the people power that we've been born into and stuff, and which many other places in the world envy, then we ought to be a bit more careful in how we actually preserve and continue its existence. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the rest of our channel. If you've not seen the first part of this, I highly recommend it. It's lots of people, I've had really good feedback from it. Lots of people have been watching it. Some people say it's the best video of all time. Just saying. We got plenty more where my Trump impression is really terrible. I should just stop right now. Anyway, on that note, thank you and bye.